Hi, my name is Mike Ferry, and you've been handed this particular DVD by a real estate professional who's very interested in your home, and they wanted me to share some thoughts with you about selling your home in today's very interesting and unusual real estate market. This is a market that we've probably, in most cases, never experienced before, and it's very important that you understand the dynamics, both good and bad, of this market so the agent can help you get this home sold. Well, why has this agent chosen Mike Ferry to do this with you or to share these thoughts? The National Association of Realtors, which is the governing body of the real estate profession, several years ago repetitively named me, and I was quite honored, as one of the 5 most influential people in the real estate industry. Now, this was quite an honor because people don't know who I am, and that's perfectly fine with me. But I was named along with the President of the United States as being influential, the U.S. Congress as being influential, the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, who's very influential, a man named Henry Silverman, who runs and operates the largest real estate company in the world, and myself. And it's interesting because I've been training and coaching virtually hundreds of thousands of agents for the last 31 years on how to help people like you get the job done of either buying or selling a home, and in this case, in getting their home sold. So we want to talk about that process and what we think you need to know to make that happen. I guess the first question we want to look at is this: how did this real estate world that you and I are living in end up in this incredible mess that it's in today? With all the economic things going on and the bailouts and the loans and the lenders going out of business and all the things that you and I read about every day and hear about, how did this happen? How did this happen to us? And more importantly, how does it affect you as a homeowner? Well, in the real estate profession, we deal in cycles, and I'm sure in your business, whatever it may be, you deal in cycles also. From 1995 to 2005, we had one of the longest running, upward swinging, great real estate markets probably in the history of our country. It was absolutely incredible. You hopefully bought some real estate and profited from that great cycle, which was going straight up for almost 10 years. But you and I both know that with every cycle that is going up, there's going to be a natural cycle going down, because there is that yin and yang. There's that plus and minus. There's the good and bad in everything we do. So with this cycle that we're involved in today going down, what do we do to solve the problem for people like yourself? It's an interesting problem to solve. But I'd like to say this to you first. I think most people that are listing and selling their homes today probably aren't really sure why we're involved in the mess we're involved in today. Well, let me give you some thoughts on that. In 2004, 2005, and 2006, it is estimated that 40% of all the sales made in the United States were made to what we would call investors. Now, investors could be a couple like yourself, a person like myself, that has decided to take some of their equity and buy a rental property or a condominium or a duplex or a fourplex for their future. And I understand that. But 40% of all the sales were made to investors, which is way out of balance, which means that everybody thought that in the marketplace we're in at that time, you could get rich buying and selling real estate. In most cases, these investors were going to buy it, hold it for a year or two, flip it, make a substantial profit, and go on with their life. But see, at the same time, between 2000 and 2006, a whole new era of lending took place. Oh, you hear about it in the news all the time. You hear this word subprime loans being used, and we look at those as what we called ARM loans, adjustable rate mortgages. Now, what was happening for about 5 or 6 years, a couple, an individual, that probably shouldn't have bought a home, probably couldn't afford to buy a home, was able to buy a home because the lenders had all this money to lend, and they would go ahead and say to a homeowner or a potential buyer like yourself, hey, buy this home, put minimum down, we'll give you a low interest rate, and then 3 years, when the economy is even better than it is today, you can refinance at a higher rate and you can have home ownership and make lots of money on your equity. Well, now let's stop for a minute. With all those investors realizing in 2006 that the market wasn't as good as they thought it would be, because the downward trending market started in 2005, 2006, and with all these ARM loans that were in most cases 3-year loans coming due, all of a sudden we had a lot of inventory for sale that we never anticipated. Then you add to the fact that all these great home builders throughout the United States were building tremendous numbers of subdivisions every place you look. I mean, as you saw, no matter where you look, there were new home subdivisions, there were tremendous amounts of condominiums and townhomes being built, and these people were putting all these homes on the market. Now, watch this. All of a sudden, instead of having X number of homes for sale at a given time in the U.S., which represented 5 to 6 months of inventory, all of a sudden we're sitting here with 15, 18, 20 months worth of inventory, which tells us the following result. And you can already see this coming. When all these homes came on the market by the investors, that suddenly they couldn't sell, some of those homes started being repossessed. And then all these ARM loans coming due, and some of these people couldn't afford the new interest rates. They had to walk away from these homes, and some of these builders became desperate to sell. So what happens? All of a sudden, there's 1.5 million to 2 million bank repos for the last 12 to 18 months, and more projected in the future, which means the real estate market is suddenly completely out of control. Then you add the other factor, which is just normal people that are moving up or moving down, buying a bigger home, buying a smaller home for whatever reason. So what's the result of all this to you as a homeowner today? An enormous inventory. Guys, you know whenever you have an enormous inventory, we are going to have a little lower demand. Because a large inventory in most cases scares people back. What's the problem? What's wrong? Why are so many for sale? There must be something wrong. And there was something wrong. There were too many economic factors that were causing people to look and say, maybe we should wait. So huge inventory, ladies and gentlemen, lower demand, and as a result of lower demand, there's always going to be lower prices for those homes that you are going to sell, that you and I need to or want to sell. Now, if we sit down, you and I was going to talk to you about getting your home sold, I would say to you there are two critical factors for you to look at and talk to your professional agent about. The first factor is how badly do you want to, or how badly do you have to sell this home? See, the motivation that you have determines the second factor, which is your price. The stronger your motivation is to sell, the worse you want to get it sold, the lower you will make your price, which makes it much more conducive to bringing a buyer into your property. The problem, of course, we have today is we would all like to have the highest price possible. Every one of us, I mean, you and I, wouldn't we love to have the prices that we could have gotten in 2003, 2004, and early 2005 in 2008, 2009? And the answer is we would love to have it, but we're probably not going to get it. Why? Because there's too many choices, too many homes for sale. Buyers can drive around now for several days, and instead of looking at 4 or 5 homes and having to buy one right now or lose out, they're looking at 50 to 100 homes and saying, which seller absolutely will price their home